Okay, so as I said, this workshop this evening is on developing a fundraising strategy. Um, I think most of you have been on previous workshops we've done over the last 3 weeks. So I won't spend much time on the welcome introduction, but just for those who might be coming in for the first time, my name is Tom O'Leary from O'Leary and Associates Training Consultancy Limited, based in Kerry, and we work with not-for-profit organisations on developing community plans, feasibility studies. We do strategic and business planning. We do mentoring and training and consultancy, and a big part of what we do is working with groups on accessing finance, whether it be through grant aid, looking at loan finance and developing business plans for loan applications, or advising on sponsorship and fundraising. Okay, so as I said to you, the very first night on the program, and I've been saying probably every week since, it's really important that you understand that cash flow is really crucial to your survival in any business or any social enterprise or any community volunteer organization. So, and again, as I say, like the mantra I have is that you might be not for profit, but you're also not for loss. You need to be making money on an ongoing basis to make sure that it's covering what's going out, and also allow yourself to have some sort of reserve in the account at all times. So what a lot of groups need to do is they're reliant completely on fundraising to bring in money to keep the operations going. So a lot of organizations we work with or have worked with in the past are completely reliant on fundraising. They don't get any grants, they don't get any state funding or core funding. So they're relying on the goodwill of people every year to donate money to them and give money to them as part of the fundraising campaigns. So the key thing really with any fundraising strategy is knowing what your target is. So again, a lot of groups they just don't know basically what it is they need to raise. So they go out there with doing a fundraiser, they collect some money, but they don't know if that money is enough, or is it too much, or have they reached target. So if you're doing any sort of fundraiser, you need to set a target for yourself, and you need to try to achieve that target. So review the cost regularly. Look at where you might make some cost savings. If you're adding new projects, new services on, if it doesn't add revenue to your project, question why you're doing it. If it doesn't really benefit the direction that you're going in as an organization, again, if you're bringing on a project or a program or a service that doesn't really kind of fit in with what you do, and doesn't really fit in with your overall direction, again, I'd be questioning why you'd be doing it. If it's not really needed within the community, if you haven't proven there's need for it, again, I'd question why you do that. That's important when it comes to fundraising, because you want to rely on the public to give you money. If they feel that there's no need for the project in the local area, or they're not convinced by it, they're not going to give money towards it. Again, if you're looking at like bringing on new projects, okay, you might be able to get one-off funds to develop something, but you might have to go back every year and fundraise to keep that project going. So again, think before you kind of leap into something, that if we start this process, we start this project, we start this service, provide a service now, how are we going to sustain it every year for God knows how long? And then look at, in terms of fundraising, rather than just for funds the whole time and money the whole time, look at what kind of in-kind support you can bring in as well. So get like things like, say, equipment, materials, goods, services sponsored or provided in kind to the organization. That could be professional services in terms of consultancy or advice or information or support, or it could be in terms of equipment or materials. So again, like that high towns groups would get funds from, or would get support from, say, garden centers and stuff like that to do works. Okay, so the budget, again, when you're doing your fundraiser, you need to look at in terms of, okay, what do we need to bring in and when do we need to bring it in? How much do we need to bring in at any one time of the year? And that will then determine your strategy in terms of your timing. So when do you do the fundraisers? So there's a couple things that would impact on fundraisers in terms of the timing of them and when you do them. One is when you need the money, obviously. So there's no point in doing a fundraiser for something that you need money for on Friday, because that won't happen. So you need to kind of like plan well ahead of time. The money needs to be raised well in advance of when it's needed. Things like, say, the weather will impact on some fundraising activities. So if you're, again, looking at doing a golf classic or like a festival or music festival, or community barbecue, community outdoor event, a sports day, all these things all these things will be impacted by things like the weather. There's other things as well to consider when you're doing a fundraiser in a local community or in a parish, that there's communication there across the board, where you have a situation where you're not competing with another organization or another club at the same time. So you're not doing there's not a situation where there's two groups or two clubs in a community doing a fundraiser at the same time, or are very close to each other, because that just really annoys everyone in the community. It happens an awful lot. Happens too often, to be honest. And I've been involved in a few situations where an organization would have known that a group or a club were going to do a fundraiser, and they got in ahead of them, just to make sure they were getting in there before them, and it causes major problems at that community level. So again, just everyone in the community should be communicating. If there is a big fundraiser going on, you don't want the people being asked to give money left, right, and center. So again, it's all about planning and timing. So source of funds, then again, which we covered in previous workshops, let's go back over this in terms of, to remind you, fee income, again, for providing services, things you can charge for, you'll bring money that way. We've got one-off grants or core grants, so grant date, fundraising and online fundraising, which we'll be focused on tonight, sponsors and partners, which we'll be focused on tonight. You've donors and philanthropists, which are like grants, basically. They're funds that you have to apply for and go through an application process and a pitching process to be successful. You've got loans, so you've got Clan-Credo, Community Finance Ireland, who provide social loans, and they normally would tend to be projects would be bridged by loans, and then you would have, in a lot of cases, then if you're looking at longer term loans, like a mortgage or a long term loan from the social banks, your fundraising would do two things. One, it would provide the matching funds for the project to go alongside the loan, and secondly, it would then be used to finance the loan afterwards, to repay the loan afterwards. You can go for commercial loans with the banks, credit union as well, and then you've got, as I said, in-kind contribution, which is non-financial contributions from companies, sponsors, or individuals. Okay, so fundraising then, which is the focus of this evening. So you've all been involved in fundraisers at some level. Anyone who's worked in the community advantage sector at any level, whether it be volunteer or paid employee, has been involved in a fundraiser. I'd be very surprised if there's anyone here tonight that hasn't been. And then on the other side of it, we've all been involved in the giving side, where we've been asked to donate to a local event, or buy a ticket for the race night, or buy a lotto ticket, or drop a few coins into bucket of church gate collection, or do whatever. So we've all been involved in it, and we see it happening in communities time and time again. It took a bit of obviously hammering there during COVID, because most of the fundraisers that were done nationally were physical fundraisers that involved events and people meeting each other and people going out networking and selling and mingling. And obviously, because of social distancing, that couldn't happen. So an awful lot of groups, their fundraising just dried up, because they had no money coming in at all from their traditional fundraisers. So a lot of them had to become more creative. A lot of them went online. Some just basically just stopped altogether and are now trying to get back on their feet again. So the key thing we always say to groups when they're fundraising and they're looking at fundraising ideas, you look at the return that's involved. So if you're doing an awful lot of one-off small events throughout the year, that takes time, takes effort, a lot of hours, a lot of volunteer hours, and you might get a huge return from it. So you might be spending a whole day standing outside a shop and having teams rotating, where you might be there for 3 hours and then the next person comes in for 3 hours. And at the end of the whole day, you might make a couple €100 out of it. And it's soul destroying for groups and for individuals involved. So it's important then that you look in terms of what's the return then involved in or return for the effort that's involved. So a lot of people kind of stay away from large fundraisers because they feel they take up an awful lot of time. They're a lot of hard work. There's a lot of work goes into them. But when you actually count the number of hours you put into all the small fundraisers, you're probably spending at least the same amount of time or more time on the smaller events than on one large event. But the difference being is that the one large event brings in multiples of the smaller events. So what we're trying to get groups to look at is doing large kind of annual fundraisers, or maybe biannual fundraisers that bring in 20,000 plus profit, and would also attract a bit more publicity would get more people involved in the community, and would also attract more corporate sponsors as well, because they would see it being kind of as a great return for them. Um, so the smaller events, not saying that you shouldn't do them, because the smaller events, in a way, they do create kind of more I suppose, promotion. They do make people aware of you. They do get you out into the community. It's kind of a branding kind of exercise as well, because people see you, they see you're collecting. But sometimes that's more from a marketing point of view, and getting out there and staying in touch with the community rather than generating any money from it. So if you're expecting to make a lot of money from doing doing many small events, you're better off looking at the larger events that be more lucrative. So the steps involved in any fundraising strategy. So the first thing that we would always recommend, and if you have one, fantastic. If you don't have one, I'd be recommending you to look at setting one up. So you establish a dedicated fundraising team. Your fundraising team is the equivalent of your strongest department in any organization, because it's that team that's really going to be bringing in the money. It's going to be the one that's going to be out there selling pretty much for you. It's like the sales team that's out there bringing money in through various different fundraisers. And because there's so much work involved in doing fundraising, you have to have a team of people. You have to have support. There's no point in 2 or 3 people trying to do all the fundraising, and they're responsible for it, and they're just trying to gather bodies in to do, to help out with collections and all that kind of stuff. That's not sustainable at all. Okay. And what happened is that most people, if they're not kind of part of a formal structure, they'll tend to kind of duck and hide and get away with trying to get out of it, or they won't be committed to it. And that's a problem, because you have a situation there where it's the same people that are over and over and over again are the ones out there just raising money, and that leads to burnout. It also leads to a lot of frustration as well with people. And then the other side of that too, and I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I certainly noticed this, and I've seen it, and people reported to me that it can also create problems at local level, because then there's people thinking, how come they're always collecting the money? Where's that money going to? They're stuck in everything, that sort of thing. So it just creates that kind of issues at a local community level, where if you don't have a lot of people involved at the outset, it does fall back on a handful of people then that are responsible, and it's a massive responsibility to raise money. So again, you need to look at who should have on that team. So again, you would have, if you've a board, obviously some board representation on there, but bringing people that have got experience in sales, people experience in marketing, people have experience in business development, people experience in finance, that can bring in 2 things: one, some skills, but also probably a lot of context as well. Okay, so review your previous fundraising strategy and your fundraisers that you did before. So sit back and look in terms of, okay, what did we do in the past? What worked? What didn't work? What worked and why did it work? And what didn't work and why didn't it work? Set a target based on cost analysis. So again, we would recommend literally just getting a wall chart and writing an actual revenue figure on that chart in terms of what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to raise. It baffles me when groups go out there to raise money, but they're not overly sure what they're actually trying to raise. It's different if it's for an actual project, because you kind of know what the cost of the project is. So if it's going to be signage, or if it's going to be buying equipment, or it's going to be developing a sports facility or whatever, or adding an extension to building, or just painting a building, what that's going to cost. So you can set that's your target. But if you're talking about, say, annual fundraising to just cover operational costs, you need to know what you need to be targeting to bring in. So you can set your target that's based on cost analysis and whatever revenue you need to bring in each year. Define the ask. So this is the important thing. So a lot of people do fundraisers, but they don't really communicate what the fundraiser is for and what the benefit would be, or what the impact would be. Okay, so we get this a lot with people. They see ads going up for various fundraising events, billboards with the details on it, and they know what it is in terms of who the organization is that's doing a fundraiser. But in most cases, they know what the prize is, but they don't know where the money is actually going to be going to and what it'll actually do. Okay, and that can cause problems. We're doing some work at the moment. Well, not doing some work with them, but we're asked to give some advice to an organization here in Kerry who've a fundraiser currently on the go, and they're nowhere near their target. And the main reason is that no one really knows what's going to be done to money, because it's very vague. It's kind of going in different locations, different areas. And people are saying, well, we don't know what, there's nothing we can actually see where this money is going to, so therefore we're not going to get involved in it. So define the ask. What is it you're looking for? Why are you looking for it? What are you going to do with it? What's going to be done? And what would the impact be? Okay. And I explained that a bit more later on when we talk about the marketing. When you're marketing your fundraiser activity. Identify how this will be communicated. So how do you get the message out there? Okay. So my kids are involved in a football club here in North Kerry, a GA club, and they're at the moment just doing a campaign to they're selling tickets for a night of the dogs in June, and today's the deadline to get the tickets back. So we all had to sell 5 tickets each. Every parent that has a kid in the club had to sell 5 tickets each. But they're on the local radio station, Radio Kerry, this evening. The club members explaining why the fundraiser is so important to support the juvenile section of the club. So, and then the next stage would be they'd be going to the press, getting editorial in the paper, and everyone would be very, very clear why the club are doing it and what the club are looking for and how they can be supported. What you do next then is in terms of you build your network of contacts and prospects. So like any salesperson, they build a kind of a database of prospects and they'd use their own immediate and kind of maybe not so immediate networks to start building those prospects. Okay, so they start building their database. And that's what you need to do as an organization. So you start building your contacts. Who out there can support us? Who do we know that's well connected? Who do we know that's got a lot of reach within the community or within business in the community? And you start developing that kind of hub and spoke model. So you start putting the spokes out there. It's like a web, and you're trying to gather as many as you possibly can into that web. And the more people you gather, the more people they'll gather, and eventually you get the numbers up in terms of people to get involved and support it. You then start identifying the potential events and activities. So looking in terms of what can we run, what would work, what wouldn't work, what would bring in money, what wouldn't bring in much money, what would be very hard work, what would be less work to do, what can we do ourselves, what do we need to get maybe professionals in to assist us with in terms of event planners and professional companies that run these things. When will we run it? Where can we run it? What venue? What sort of numbers can we get on board? What are the steps you need to do? Ticketing, all this kind of stuff, right? So it's really planning the actual activity then you're going to be looking at. And that's why you need the numbers, because these things do require an awful lot of planning. The larger the fundraiser, the more that's involved in the logistics, the planning, the event side of it, the event management side of it, the ticketing side of it, the collection of money side of it, the accountability side of it. Then you plan your events and implement the activities. And then finally you evaluate. So you sit back and say, okay, right, we ran this event. We made, our target was 30,000 euros. We made 10,000 euros. Where did it go wrong? What did we do wrong? What can we do better next time around? Or our target was 30,000 euros and we made 40,000 euros. How come we did so well? Why are the reasons we did very, very well in this project? Is there a standout? Was it a fluke? What was it? So you can then plan your next event and your next year's fundraiser even better again. Okay, so it's really important because, as you know better than I do, it doesn't just basically stop at the end of the year and then there's a crock of gold at the end of the rainbow and there's plenty of money there forevermore. Every single year you got to fundraise. There's no two ways about it. There is no kind of regular income coming in from most organizations. You're constantly fundraising every single year. That can lead to serious burnout if you put an awful lot of effort into it and you're getting nothing out of it. Okay, so it's really important that you have a strategy, you have a team that are dedicated to it, and you have a plan in terms of how you're going to implement it and what you're going to do. Okay, but you need to always evaluate what you're doing. So the hub and spoke model that I look at and I focus on is this. So you got your team here, with your coordination team or your fundraising team within the organization. So that's the hub. Okay, they're going to identify teams from within the organization or outside the organization that will support them. Okay, so that's identifying three. This case is 3 groups of 5 that they've identified, right? And they could be people within the club that are well connected from a business perspective, well connected socially within the club. People they're just maybe involved in different other organizations and involved in the community and community activists or whatever it might be. And these are key people that are going to be connected, right? So you're using these spokes here to get into the community, to target the general community in terms of general public and businesses within the community. Okay, so what we work on with our groups, we kind of work on the Power 10 type of process, where you have maybe 10 people in a group, and each of those 10 people, in terms of the spoke team, each of those 10 will identify 10 people they know that they can get involved, right? So very quickly, you're up to 100 people now getting involved in terms of sponsoring or donating money to the cause, right? And you're hoping those 10 people that you've targeted will know more people that they'll bring into the loop as well. Okay, so it starts spreading and spreading and spreading. But the only way it's going to start spreading is if you've got really well connected people from the outset that can spread the words and as many as possible. Okay, so like where our club has been successful in fundraising is that it's identified people in the club that were in business, had their own companies, had their own client base, and they're connected to other businesses within the town. Okay, so they would be well connected, already well established, and have their own network there. And all the club is doing is piggybacking on that network of people. Okay, so that's where the numbers are go up very high very quickly. Now they do taper off and they do flatten out after a while, but the initial uptick is good because you're using your teams to go out there and bring in the money as such. And if that's organized properly, and if the people are headhunted properly, and it's thought out, it can be very lucrative. Okay, so again, you find with say companies that are or organizations that are generating a lot of money, say through sponsorship from organizations, it's normally because there's a personal connection between the organization and the company. A brother-in-law or sister-in-law or an uncle, aunt, father, mother, son, daughter, whoever that's working within the company is involved in the organization as well as the company. Okay, so they've direct link in the door as such. You're not cold calling. You've already got a foot inside the door. Okay, so that's kind of what kind of again, like it's like I suppose like a pyramid marketing or pyramid selling type of scheme, but in a fair and kind of ethical way. But it is important to get numbers up because you need and require numbers to make fundraisers work. Okay, so this is some of the stuff that we've been involved in, or our club's been involved in, or that I've been in some way, shape, or form involved in. So basically, we ran two fundraisers this year for the club for a new AstroTurf pitch for the club. It's going to cost about €500,000. So the first one was the Golf Classic back in October. That brought in around 25 grand, I think it was. And then you had a Disney 2022, which was basically a trip to Disney worth 7 grand, or a voucher to a travel agent for 7 grand. And again, tickets were €25 each, and that sold out as well. They sold 3,000 tickets, so they raised 60 odd grand from that. So between both fundraisers, they raised nearly about 80 grand in total. This was a one that was a fairly, again, a different type of a one. It was done by a club here in North Kerry, St. Simon's GA Club. They did a raffle for again €25 tickets for 10 years in Croke Park. So basically, you'd be guaranteed tickets to Croke Park every year for 10 years. No, if you weren't interested in football or hurling, you wouldn't be buying a ticket. But again, they were focusing on the kind of GA kind of network and community around them. Again, I think they could have sold all the tickets as well, so I think they did very well. And you've got the Win a House in Killarney competition currently being run by Kerry GA to raise money. I know there's at the moment this problem. That is the reason I showed you this one here was purely because at the moment there's about 3 or 4 Win a House competitions in Kerry going on. There's Borbury School in Cork, actually, you have a Win a House in Killarney competition. If it's not, I'm not sure if it's over yet or not, but it was certainly going on for a while. You have the Kerry GA are doing one as well, and then Dingle GA are doing a Win a House in Dingle. So those houses being raffled off at the moment in Kerry. So again, but they're trying to raise money. This the issue. They're trying to raise money for the Kerry GA, but it's very unclear as to what element is going towards. So when they were doing their campaign and their fundraising for their Centre of Excellence in Corns in outside Killarney, everyone knew that the money being raised was going into developing those facilities. So they raised an awful lot of money for it. Whereas now it's more, this is kind of more generic funding for operational kind of costs throughout the years. So it's going to go into every element of the running of the organization. But it's very unclear for people to know where it's going to. And that becomes a problem if you're raising money for a project. As I said earlier, it's easier to do that because people can see that's the project, that's what we raise money for. But when you're then going back year after year after year looking for money for operational costs to kind of keep it going, that's more difficult for people to see because it's not as tangible as an actual project, a physical project like a building or a pitch or whatever, you know. So just a couple examples. What a lot of companies are doing is they're going to companies like you can see this Palace Marketing. This one the club used, and also Saint use them as well. So they run the campaigns. They run the fundraiser for you. You know, you might be aware of them. There's other companies out there as well doing something similar, and they run these events. So you know, like the Cube events or the Strictly Come Dancing events, or any of those. They're run by professional companies, and they kind of do the ticketing and do everything else. Now, obviously, they charge a fee, so their fee is taken off the money that's raised. So when you're setting your targets, always make sure that your targets are including the fee that's going to be paid to the companies that are running the event. So you're always kind of aiming for maybe around, the rule of thumb is maybe between 20 and 25 grand kind of profit is for the larger ones. Is what you're going to be hoping to get. Now some of them I've seen some make a lot more than that, but they'd be very well established organizations and would have a huge amount of contacts. So, and they would have also, like, you know, they would have a few you know, the school that I went to, secondary school, they raised a lot of money on a fundraiser, the Cube fundraising event, but it was a big social night out. There's a lot of ex-Kerry footballers that were involved in the school, some still teaching there, and they managed to use their network. And then there was a few business people involved in the school, and they used their network and a few politicians, etc. So they did the kind of that connections and identified who were the key people to bring in the bodies, and they raised a lot of money on their event. So fundraisers, really, if you're looking at doing any fundraiser, the key thing really is that you're looking at peer-to-peer fundraising. So what I'm talking about there is, again, back to your hub and spoke. So you're looking at using the people you know, and going out to your friends, colleagues, family, you know, anyone you can go to that will basically give you money for the event. So, for example, we want to sell 5 tickets for this race night in June for the club. I bought 2. My mom bought one. She won't be going to the race night, and my brother bought one, and my sister bought one. So we just use my own family network, and that's what you're hoping to do. People that know you, they're connected to you. That's how you start selling these tickets. So there's a stat there where it says 1 in 4 emails from peer-to-peer fundraisers result in donations, right? So compared with 1 in 1,250 emails from a not-for-profit. So what that basically means is that if you send out a random email to people from a database, and they don't know who you are, they don't know anything about you, chance of them donating money to you would be very, very, very slim. If you get an email from your friend, colleague, relative, saying, look, I'm involved in this fundraiser, doing an amazing thing, they're a great organization, help out, 1 in 4 people would donate to something like that, because they're getting it from someone they know, one of their peers. So that's one very good way of bringing in a lot of numbers, bringing a lot of people in. Okay, so use that peer-to-peer connections. Now, again, the reason why I'm saying about doing 1 a year is because if you keep going back to your network of people, your friends, your family, your colleagues, every 3 months, saying we're now doing another fundraiser there, can you give me another $5? People get pretty fed up with that after a while. So if they know that they're not going to get asked for money, from one end of the year to the next end of the year, they're happier with that. They know that every year this event is happening around the same time, and they'll be expected to give money towards it. That's fine. They either will or they won't. But if they're asked to give money every couple of months, it gets very frustrating. It's like the schools that we've got 2 kids in national school, and like every 3rd or 4th week, like they're coming home saying we need to bring in €2 for this, €5 for that, €10 for this, €15 for this, and you get pretty fed up with it after a while. And I always made the argument saying, why don't you just ask parents for, 3 installments a year that will cover everything, instead of asking for bits and dribs and drabs of money throughout the year. Okay, so Tuesday campaign. So some charities do this very successfully, where they pick a national date. So like you'd be familiar with the Daffodil Day, the annual tea day for the Alzheimer Society of Ireland. There's a couple more I can't think of off the top of my head, but there's a few more that they pick one day, like the Darkness into Light day as well. So it's on one day per year, and everyone knows on that day, and they build it up to that day. So again, sometimes with an organization, you could do something similar. Maybe in a day for an organization mightn't work that well, because you're talking about it has to be marketed very heavily. But like we see a lot of organizations now in rural communities doing events. So like might be like weekend events or festivals, maybe 5-day festival, a long weekend festival, with different activities, family day, barbecue, kind of demonstrations, talks, workshops, family fun events, music at nighttime. And that attracts visitors, attracts people, attracts sponsors, and it's done every year. So it's a big social community event that's done every single year. And then people know what to expect it. The other thing to look at as well when you're fundraising, if you're doing fundraising through companies, right? So a lot of companies will do this. If you go to, say, a local company and say, look, if your staff raise money, can you match their donations? So I know some companies do that. They'd say, look, if our staff raise, for every euro our staff will raise, we'll match it with 50 cents or half it, or we match it like for likes, we match it for every euro raised, we match it with €1. So that means then the staff are getting involved in the fundraiser. They can do it as a kind of fundraising, as a team building event, a kind of a corporate day out, a bit of fun, but they're raising money as well. So a lot of companies, a lot of corporations do that, where they treat the fundraiser as an actual team building type of experience, and they raise money for their chosen charity, and then the company will actually match what's raised by their staff members. So the likes of Little Apple Green, those type of companies, the staff choose each year what the chosen charity will be. And it's, it doesn't have to be big companies. You can go to a local company and do the exact same thing. That they nominate G as their chosen charity for the year, or a chosen organization or not-for-profit for the year, and they get their staff then to do the fundraisers. We see it in the Ring and Kerry charity cycle. When I was involved in it, some companies would enter a team into the Ring and Kerry charity cycle, and they would raise money then for the cycle. But it'll be done as kind of a bit of fun, a kind of a team event from the company. If you are looking at getting donations, talk to revenue or to your accountant about getting tax relief on, applying for tax relief on donations to eligible charities. So again, this is where, if you get approved by revenue as an organization that can get tax relief on donations, it means that for every €250 that a PAYE worker pays you or donates to you, you can claim the tax back that they paid on that €250. So it has to be minimum €250. It has to be with a PAYE worker. So the PAYE worker they get nothing out of it, but you as an organization get the tax back on their spend. Okay, so how that really works is, this is from the revenue side. So if you make a donation of €250, it's an approved body. So let's say one of your organizations was approved for this, and I gave you €250. I give you a CHY4 cert, which is basically my details, PPS number, etc., the amount I donated to you. You then submit that to revenue, and you can claim back €112 on top of €250, which would be basically which would bring you in €362 in total. So you're getting €112 more on top of €250 per person. So let's say 100 people. That's a substantial amount of money coming back to you from revenue. So it's really worth looking at that for larger fundraisers. And this is where your numbers then really step in, right? So if you manage to get your 100 people signed up through your hub and spoke model, so every person targets 10 people, those 10 people say, yeah, I'm willing to donate €250 over 12 months, so 20 odd euros a month. Signed up with direct debit, that's 25 grand that's coming back to the organization, plus then another 112 by 100, so roughly about another 12 grand come back on top of that. That's substantial fundraising. Okay, and it might seem like, geez, getting 100 people is an awful lot of people. Not if you break it down to teams of people to get those 100 people. So like, you're not asking one person to find 100 people, you're asking one person to find 10 people. Like, one person knows 10 people. If you're connected through business, or if you're involved in a lot of organizations, you're going to have a lot of people that can afford 20 odd euros a month. And that's the whole purpose of targeting and building that database. But certainly talk to revenue about looking for approval and getting tax relief, or approval as a body to get tax relief on donations. So, because it is free money pretty much, and there's not that much administration involved in it. It's a matter of just sending off certs to revenue. If you're going after a company then, and they give you €250, the company obviously is not a PAYE worker, so you can't claim anything back on that. So you just basically get, so if I give you €250 as a company, all you get out of that is 250 euros. On the other hand, though, I as a company can claim that 250 euros as a marketing expense and therefore deduct it off my income at the end of the year when I'm doing my tax returns. So when I'm calculating my net income, I can put 250 euros into marketing costs, which brings down my taxable income by 250 euros, which means I'm paying slightly less tax. So some of the fundraisers then that you might be familiar with, that again, the reason I show these, these obviously are national and they're high profile fundraisers, but if you can pick a fundraiser that's going to grab attention and get traction on social media and get a lot of people following it, a lot of people engaging it, it can snowball and it can take off like wildfire. You got to be very, very careful though, because fundraisers that are getting a lot of traction on social media can very easily get a lot of negative traction on social media as well, which can cause major problems for your organization. So just be very careful with it. You can do funny, clever, quirky type fundraisers that will be a bit of crack, get a bit of attention, get a bit of notice. Don't do something that's kind of risky or controversial, okay? Because some organizations think we'll get a lot of publicity out of this. You will, but it's different. Like if it's a drinks company or Paddy Bar doing it and trying to get publicity, but when you're a not-for-profit organization providing services in your community, that can backfire very, very quickly on you. So this was the Shave or Die competition that fundraiser, sorry, that was ran by the Cancer Society, Irish Cancer Society, and Today FM, I think it was. And again, where celebrities and presenters on the radio show got their hair either shaved or dyed. Again, because they picked the partners being a radio company, so a broadcaster, so straight away they had access to the airwaves. They'd also access to a lot of influencers. So a lot of these broadcasters be well known, very well connected on social media, have a lot of followers. So it's kind of snowballed. The Ice Bucket Challenge, which was massive worldwide, that raised 220 million euros in 2014. Which is basically for ALS, which is for motor neuron disease. Again, that reason why that was so successful was that it was a bit of fun, and it kind of took off in terms of social media. If social media wasn't around, these things wouldn't be successful at all. But they might be, but they won't be as successful as they are. But again, that took off because you had celebrities, you had politicians, you had sports personalities, you had musicians, you had business people, the president of the United States of America, all involved in it. So it just went crazy. So again, look to get in your own local area, if you're doing something, try to get something that's kind of quirky, kind of unique, different, innovative, and get people locally that are well known, that are well connected, that have a lot of followers, whether it be sports people, whether it be musicians, whether it be actors, whether it be business people, whoever it is, get them involved and get them to drive it and push it on social media. So when you look at like online fundraising, so this is something that I suppose I've been saying for a long time to people, that they need to look at their online fundraising capacity, right? And the main reason for this, main reason for that prior to COVID pre-COVID, was looking at how you can expand your network in terms of the reach that you can go to generate money. Okay, so if you're talking about a fundraiser outside a church on a Sunday morning, right, as an example, the only people that are going to give you money at that fundraiser are people going to the church, right? Which is, not everyone in the community is going to be going to the church on a Sunday morning. So you're limiting your target straight away. If you're doing something in a local town, whether it be a large town or a small town, and you're standing outside a number of shops, whatever, doing a bucket collection, or doing a bag packing, the only people who want to give you money are the people that are actually there in the shop at that day, at that time, because you're limiting, again, how much you can make. The key thing is with online fundraising is you're now targeting people that are actually not physically in the place, or not physically in the parish, or not physically in the country, but they can still donate. Okay, so all the people that would have lived in the community who have now moved abroad, either recently or many years ago, you can now tap into them, and you can also tap into their network and their families and their colleagues abroad. Okay, it's a really, really important thing, because we live in small areas. Like, I'm living in a rural area, there's not a big population where I am. If you're trying to fundraise a lot of money, you've got a very small number of people to pick from to get involved. you need to start expanding that out. There's no point going into the next parish because they have their own stuff going on. No point going to the next town. They'll say, get out of here, get out of here. We've our own problems. We've our own stuff to raise money for. So you are limiting yourself. Okay. So by going online, you're actually spreading that out a lot further. Because of COVID, a lot of groups had to look going online that weren't online before. They had to, they no option but to look at an alternative way of raising money. Some did it very successfully, others struggled with it big time because they just didn't understand it, didn't know what they were doing, or didn't embrace it. They just kind of seen it as a kind of stopgap until the day, came back when they could actually go back out and fundraise again. I think it's a missed opportunity for a lot of people if they aren't online. And again, I'm going to drill home message hopefully to you that you need to start looking at it because it can bring in a wider audience. You have options, obviously, bringing in a wider audience. You have the option of bringing into diaspora, so people from your area that have moved abroad. It could be first generation, second generation, third generation. The county board here in Kerry, the Kerry GA, raised over €1 million in the States because it tapped into that Irish diaspora, that Kerry diaspora that were living in New York and Chicago and places. So Kerry people who were successful in the States, who had plenty of money, with plenty of connections, they wanted to give something back to their county. We were involved in the marketing of it, and we were kind of pushing on the whole legacy, and it's their part to be part of the legacy and all this kind of stuff. And it really worked because when people move abroad and they're living away from their home for many years, and they're become very passionate about their heritage and their roots and their community and their parish, way more so than they're actually living here. So that's how you tap into that. Do a creative campaign. Again, you can be very creative online. You can use social media to build that network as well. If you're doing an online campaign, an online fundraiser, you're not actually physically collecting money with a bucket or going around, getting checks and all this kind of stuff and doing presentations and all this kind of carry on. The money's coming straight into the account, so it's more transparent. There's a lot less administration involved in it because you're not handling cash. It's a lot less pressure on people that are, that there's no, rumors or accusations if money's gone astray, that, there was two of them in the back there counting the money, sure, and like God knows where the money went to. That kind of carry on is done away with when it comes to online, because all done via electronic transfer into accounts. So it's very easy, very more transparent, very more accountable, and there's a lot less administration involved in it. It's way more cost effective because you don't have to spend half as much time and effort and money on an online fundraiser. And there's substantially less volunteer hours involved, because there's less volunteers. You don't have to be out there in the rain, cold, wind, collecting money, or standing in Tesco bagging, packing bags for 10 hours straight. It's all done electronically online. There is work involved in it, but certainly not even a fraction of the work that's involved in a normal fundraiser. So your options then when you're doing a fundraiser, you can develop your own website, which we recommend for two reasons. One, your website is a source of information and a source of content for people who want to get involved in the community or involved in a project, which is really important. So again, you situations there where if someone wants to find out a bit more about you as an organization, they can't really find that out from a third-party site, or they might find out something from social media or Facebook or whatever, but they can't go into an about section, they can't go into your track record, they can't download any reports, they can't look at your policies and procedures, they can't look at a gallery, they can't look at all these things, right? So it gives you full control of your content. There's way more opportunities for marketing and accountability and transparency. You can provide more information to potential donors because you can direct donors now to your site where they can find out more information about you, your policies, your accounts, your income streams, your organizational structure, what you do, what you don't do. It allows you to build a database of contacts. You can have newsletter signups, that you see in a lot of websites, or contact forms, so people can actually sign up to newsletters. So, for example, if you had a website and you had a weekly newsletter going out to the community, or a monthly newsletter, they can sign up to that via the site, which means now you got access to your email address, which means you can start building a database of contacts. Going back to the point made earlier on, building your network, building your spokes, that's where you start doing this. You can have a notice board there for the community. A one-stop shop notice board that they can go to find out what's happening within the community. If you're living in an area where there's visitors or tourism, again, you'll find that people that are visiting the area will Google what to do in the area. That brings them to your site as well. There's opportunities there for visitors and tourists to be targeted is the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean, to support the local event as well. It's amazing when tourists are here. Um, and we don't do it when we're abroad, but when people come to Ireland, they want to get involved in the community. They want to go, they want to see, they want to talk about the local football match. They want to talk about, you know, the local band, or they want to, you know, they want to get involved. You know, and it's trying to get them involved in the community. Like, so trying to get them involved and say, look, you know, when we're doing a fundraiser, we have a campaign here. It's called the Friends of campaign. And, you know, for €5, you can be part of that kind of, you know, legacy. Again, go back to the word legacy. So they go home and they're going, we're supporting, like, you know, a project back in Ireland, like, you know, it costs us €5. But now you've got their details, you've got their email every Christmas, and the Christmas card via email, you know, free card. And, you know, say, thank you for being a friend of whatever the project is. And, you know, they might donate another 5 again next year. Or they might say, geez, you're great guys, we're loaded, we'll give you €1,000. So you don't know. It's just tapping into it. Again, the website's communication tool with clients and stakeholders. This is a very important point, because you're going to be doing lots of returns and reporting back to stakeholders, funders, local authorities, government departments, funding agencies, right, as well as the local public. Having all that information, in terms of information you have to get back, like an annual report, having that on the website available in video format, or in download PDF format, or as a report, makes things an awful lot easier. You just direct people to your site. Very transparent, very comfortable, very easy for people to find it. Disadvantage of having a website yourselves: the setup costs, which can be high, but not ridiculously high. You get the maintenance costs, or ongoing maintenance of the site. Someone's got to take control of the site and manage it and update it. That can be a problem if it's done on a voluntary basis, because obviously volunteers have their own stuff to do. But if you've got a website, you need to keep it up to date regularly. Very important. There's nothing worse than on a local community site, and you go into, you know, what's happening in the community, and the stuff going back to like last year and has been updated. You just won't go back there anymore. The quality of the content, again, that you're not putting up just rubbish and you know, really stupid stuff up there. That is good quality content. That you're not providing too much information. And then the last one is the quality of design. This is really important where you're looking at fundraising, where you're looking at put up a donation page on your website. If your website looks really cheap, really unprofessional, and, you know, just looks terrible, no one is going to give their credit card details to that site. No one will. Like, you know, if you look at a website, you're thinking this thing's just like made by, you know, someone just as DIY site. You're not going to trust it. So again, it has to be secure, has to look secure, has to look professional before you ask anyone to hand over their money and pay and use their credit card details on a site like that. So the options then in terms of the websites, you can look for a local company to donate their time and build a site for you for free. I'm for and against that. I'm for it because it's free, and you get a website that's going to look good for free. The problem with that is that if you're getting something done for free at local level, right, like a website, you're going to rely on that person to get it done within the time frame they say they're going to get it done. You're also going to be relying on that person to fix it if it goes wrong or breaks down. You're also going to rely on that person to be able to kind of maybe advise you on how to update it and edit it and things like that, right? If you're not paying them, you can't give out to them, right? So if they're not done in time, you can't say, look, you know, geez, the site's not done yet, and he promised it last week. But like, and then someone says, we can't give out to him. He's doing it for free. He's doing it as a favor. You're then to kind of that kind of uneasy territory then as such. You can't hound them afterwards. So if the site's not working, you know, they're not going to prioritize you. They say they will, but they're not. They're going to be too busy. Their own stuff. They're going to be prioritizing their paying clients. So I know lots of companies and web design companies who do build websites for community groups for free. And it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, it's really, really good and it's brilliant to them. But just be careful that when you are doing it, that they are going to adhere to some sort of a service contract with you, and not going to leave you kind of high and dry halfway through the year. It's fine if it's only a brochure website and people just go in there to get information. But when you got a situation where you've got using this site as an e-commerce site where you're literally getting people to give money, if that site goes down or is not working properly, you've lost all their trust. You can use a DIY website builder like the ones I've used, or Wix.com, Weebly.com. There's tons of them out there. But I wouldn't advise on doing that unless you've got some experience in using it and you have an eye for design. If you don't have an eye for design, and you know, it's like these are as technical tools, you know, but it could look terrible if you got the wrong images. They're not scaled properly, they're not formatted properly, you've got different kinds of texts and fonts and that kind of stuff. The website would look like this DIY website. Again, a DIY website, if it looks like it, people won't trust it. Look at potential funding. So fundraise to get the website built. Look for a sponsor. Go after 4 or 5 sponsors and say, okay, our website's costing us $2,000. Can you 4 of you give us €500 each, and we put your logos on the front of the website. So this website was kindly sponsored by all these 4 companies. Okay, so again, look at alternative ways of doing it. So look at sponsors. Look, see, it might be grants out there that might help you with it as well. I know the enterprise offices, local enterprise office, have the fund or a trading online voucher for businesses to get their business online. If you're a social enterprise and you can classify yourself as a social enterprise, there might be opportunities there to apply for that. Might be long shot, but there might be other grants coming up, kind of out of COVID that are looking at helping companies and organizations put their stuff online. And there was grants last year, anyway, the year before, for things like this, where it was for IT, so you could actually use it for a website. If you are going to be talking to a web designer, get advice on the best payment platforms. So if you've got a donate page, should you use Stripe? Should you use PayPal? Can you use electronic transfer? People can use their credit cards. So just look at the pricing structure of those. And what's the best one to go with. Again, it's bound to trust what people trust and what people are used to. If you're hiring a web designer, and a lot of you will be hiring a web designer, and this is standard kind of brief that I would have for businesses I work with as well, if they're hiring web designers or any sort of professional consultancy. If you're including payment functions, right, make sure that they're reputable web designers that know what they're doing. They can show you a sample of lots of business or lots of websites they've built that are e-commerce sites, and that have a proven track record of building e-commerce sites. Make sure that they provide a support service. Some people will use college students, and again, I'm not saying anything bad about college students here, or they might use their son or daughter might do it for the group for free, and that happens constantly. What happens is that son or daughter or graduate or college student who is brilliant at web design goes off to America for 3 months of the summer on a J1 visa. And you're sitting there on the last weekend of June, ready to kind of launch a fundraising campaign, and the site's gone down. And you're trying to find Joe or Mary, and Joe or Mary is, after hard days working, they're having a pint in some pub in Boston or New York. It ain't much good to you. We're trying to find support. So again, I'm not dismissing the great work that people do for free, but when you need backup, you need support, you need to have the person local that's there going to do for you. Again, make sure the web designer knows search engine optimization. That basically means that when someone Googles you or looks for you, that your website comes up high in the rankings on Google or on a search engine. Again, a lot of web designers say, "Oh yeah, we're brilliant at it," and you go looking for the websites they built and you can't find them, so they're obviously lying. Look at samples of their work, talk to their clients. How good were they? How bad were they? Ideally, go with a designer as well who has an in-house digital marketing team, or that knows about digital marketing. The reason why I say that is that it's easier, because now you're not dealing with two different people. Your web designer is also doing this advising you on social media, so you're dealing with kind of one person or one company to support you on the online side of things. Have a clear brief for the designer in terms of what you need, content, styles, functionality, etc. Agree to brief in writing, and make sure that both parties are satisfied that what you're agreeing on, so that there's no one come back after saying, "I thought I was getting 7 pages and you only did 4, right?" Or you're going back to the web designer saying, like, we agreed on X, Y, or Z, and the designer's like, "No, we agreed on A, B, and C." Have it in writing and sign off on it, because it'll save you a lot of hassle. And then for grants, you need 3 quotations anyway, but I always kind of say shop around and get the best, look for different quotations from different ones. Ideally, you want to keep it local, because this could keep everything local, to support local business, and also because the person is living locally and they might be involved in the project anyway, or the organization anyway, or they might know someone. And again, it goes back to your connections. If I'm a web designer and I'm after doing a website and getting paid $3,000 through the website for you, and you come to me next year to send me a ticket for €10 for the race night, I'm not going to say no to you. So you're building your local connections as well. Okay, so then these are just examples of charity websites that would have their own online donations and their own kind of options to donate. So this is Bumbulance, Kerry-based charity, providing ambulances for kids to treatment. Do fantastic work. They've got I think this is actually their old site, but it's the same concept anyway. So they've got a number of options here that you can donate. So to try and transfer text to 503300. You can send a check, you can make a post donation, you can do all these things. And you can see here that they've got the 250 euros, the donation thing as well. So they're saying to people, you can actually get, they charge and get tax back on the donation as well. So the thing about the website is they can, someone can go into the About Us page here. They can go into the case studies, so some of the kids' stories, how they benefit from there, how their families benefit from it, how they can get involved, different events, things like that. So you're just providing way more information on a site than you can provide on a third-party site or on a social media page. This is P8 House. I like this approach because what they've done is made it very, very easy for you to donate. It's this kind of like literally they put it in front of you. Click on 50, 20, 100, 250 euros or another amount if you want to. Again, they're shown here that again, the emission tax relief, they've highlighted that. But what I like about what they've done at P8 House, they're telling you exactly where your money will go to and what it will do. So 20 euros will help our caring therapist answer 2 more calls to our helpline. So you know that if you give 20 euros, that's what it's going to do. And you trust them, obviously. So it's like when you see those ads for, Concern or Trócaire or all those very different charities that be advertising on TV. And you see like, your €5 a month will save a child's eyesight or something like that, So they're making it kind of heart-wrenching kind of advertising, and they're making it very emotional, and they usually do it kind of like around tea time or lunchtime when you're eating your dinner, just kind of, to make you feel guilty, I suppose, really. But they're then saying to you like, it's only a €5 a month. They're not asking like for, thousands of euros, they're asking for €5 a month. But the key thing there is they're telling exactly where it's going to go to. And that's what I like about P8 House. They're saying exactly where the money is going to go to and what it will do, what it will achieve. So it's again, if you're doing something similar in terms of fundraiser online, show what the euros will do in terms of how much of a difference it will make to someone. Okay. Okay, so then you got fundraising websites. So basically, a fundraising site is you're familiar with them, is where you have people that are probably fundraising for a charity or for a cause, right? So let's say I'm cycling I'm not, but let's say I was cycling the Raincarry Cycle in July, and I want to donate money to one of the chosen charities. I go onto the website, I go into iDonate, and I donate money then through that platform to that chosen charity. And that's how they administer the funding to the various different charities. So it's done through a third-party website. So this is a way of getting out there fast, really, and raising money quickly online. But again, it's separate from your website. It doesn't give them the access to the detail and the content you can provide on your own site. So you've also then got crowdfunding. So you might be familiar with crowdfunding. It's used a lot in the private sector, where you've got companies that are basically maybe in the art sector or in craft or in theatre or music, and they'll raise money for their business through a kind of GoFundMe campaign. And what they do is they offer rewards in exchange for funds. So let's say it's a microbrewery starting off and they want to raise 30 grand or 40 grand. They might say, look, if you give us 200 euros, we'll give you lifetime membership of our visitor center, or we give you a 6-pack of beer or something, right? And they give some rewards. But with not-for-profit organizations, it's difficult to do the reward thing because what are you going to give them? But again, if you can be creative around that. So a lot of community arts projects and community theatres will do it, where they are maybe music festivals or film festivals or literary festivals will do kind of crowdfunding, because they can offer something in return, like say tickets to events, or kind of a preview night or gala dinner, or audience, kind of exclusive audience with one of the writers or the actors or the musicians or whatever it might be, or backstage passes or things like that. They can offer all these in exchange for money. So it's a good way of raising funds. And certainly, like, not-for-profit organizations should look at it as an option of raising funds. I would say probably the type of organizations that would do well with crowdfunding would be like environmental organizations, that they could tap into a network of or target of people that are of an interest in that and want to get involved in some way, shape, or form. Again, a lot of youth organizations would do it. and again, a lot of arts and kind of theatre groups and festival groups will do it also. So basically you got Funded as one of those crowdfunding platforms. So basically, again, it's where you put your fundraiser up the platform and you set a target. Now, the thing with these is if you don't make your target, let's say you set a target of 10,000 euros and you get 9,500 kind of donated to you. If you don't make your target, you don't get anything. So it goes back into the funders. So you have to reach your target. So that's why if you are doing a funding or go kind of a crowdfunding campaign, don't set your target too high, because you might be able to reach it and you might get close to it and realize, geez, we only had like 5 grand less, we would have actually made our target that we needed, and now we've got nothing. So just be careful with that. Kickstarter is one you're probably very familiar with. Again, it's more for kind of businesses and for startup companies. But again, there's nothing stopping social enterprises from targeting these as well. You just got to be creative in terms of how you give the rewards back to your donors. Then your fundraising websites. So these are these are the sites that allow your community to donate to you. So they can pick the charity and they can run the event for you, like a marathon for you on your behalf, or they can cycle on your behalf, or they can do a kind of couch to 5K on your behalf, or they can do whatever they want to do on your behalf to raise money. So it's where you have individuals raising money for the charity. So iDonate is probably one of the more popular ones. Again, they charge 5% transaction fee per donation. The donor can actually pay that transaction fee, so they're given the option to pay that transaction fee if they want to. So there's no cost to you then. There's no other fees involved. You got GoFundMe, which again is a very popular one during COVID. A lot of people are doing GoFundMe campaigns, and an awful lot of GoFundMe campaigns during COVID. Again, they charge 2.9% transaction fee plus 30 cents per donation. There's no other fees associated with it. I don't think they allow. I'm not sure if they allow the actual donor to pay the transaction fee. I need to check that out, but I'm not sure. I know iDonate do, but I'm not sure if GoFundMe do. You got Just Giving, another one, same concept, 1.9% transaction fee, 20 cents on donations, no other fees involved. And again, it's just a quick way of getting your fundraiser off the ground. Then you got text campaigns. So text campaigns work really, really well because again, everyone's got a mobile phone on their hand, stuck to their hand pretty much. And it's a very quick way, very cheap way of giving to local charity. You might be aware of during the COVID, the Late Late Show on a Friday night raised millions of euros for charities. Because it was very clever the way they did it, because everyone was at home, they had no place to go, so they were sitting at home with a glass of wine or their bottle of beer watching the Late Late Show instead of being in the pub on a Friday night. And they brought on people to talk about the various different charities. They brought on survivors that were supported by charities, celebrities, sports people talking about it, and they were giving the message and giving the story. And it was all these people sitting at home on their couch with tablets and their phones, and all they're doing was like literally texting donations to it. And people, of course, as they got more emotional, and some of them were very emotional, they were just giving more and more and more money. So they raised a substantial amount of money for charities over COVID. So again, it's making it easier for people, make it as easy and as cheap as possible for people to donate. If someone's asked to donate like €4 or €5, it's not a big deal. If you're asking to donate 400 or 500 euros, it's a massive deal. So you're trying to keep it low on these things, and it's about volume then to get the volume up. So it worked well in the Late Show because you had a massive viewership during COVID. I'm not saying you needed that sort of coverage, but the point I'm making is that, again, going back to the point earlier, the more connections you have, the more people actually just text money to and donate to a specific cause. You can do fundraiser on Facebook as well. A lot of groups that I work with would have done Facebook fundraisers. Again, just set up a Facebook fundraising page on your account. Again, just to follow the on-screen instructions. And again, it's an easy way of bringing in some money. Obviously, if you've got a lot of followers, you've got a lot of people who subscribe to your site or to your fundraising or to your Facebook page, it works better. The one thing I would say about social media, though, when it comes to fundraising, is be very careful that you're moderating it, because, like everything else with social media, if negative stuff goes out there about the fundraiser or where the money is going to, and a lot of times it can be lies and just rumor. but it becomes reality on social media, like as we know, fake news kind of stuff. It can kill your fundraiser very, very quickly. So if you're using social media as your main marketing tool to get the message out there and get people to sign up and get people to donate, if you're not moderating the conversations about that fundraiser on an ongoing basis, it will destroy it. Okay. And it's, look, it's, sometimes it's done accidentally by someone just saying something wrong, or miscommunication, which happens a lot, by the way. If you don't have a proper communication strategy, it can happen, and can be disaster. Or even just people out there just are nasty, or just begrudgers, and just or just have some sort of issue with you, or an individual, or an issue with the organization itself, or a disgruntled employee or something, or a disgruntled volunteer. If that's not dealt with quickly, it will absolutely destroy your fundraiser. Okay. And it'll destroy your reputation as well, long term, for fundraising. So some people are kind of shying away from it because they're afraid what could happen. But unfortunately, if you want to get out to a lot of people, you're going to have to use some sort of marketing, and social media is the handiest way to do that. But just need to have someone that's responsible, that's going to be monitoring it. Then you got online lottos. So again, the lottos with COVID, they stopped because you couldn't go into the pub on a Friday night and collect lottery, sell lottery tickets, because there was no pubs open. So all those people going around every Friday and every Saturday collecting money in venues around the towns, that all stopped. So clubs were forced to go online and do an online lotto through like the likes of Club Force. And again, that's created an opportunity, because a lot of clubs were kind of chasing money from people. They were going after, kind of not harassing them, but they were kind of annoying them, looking for money every week off them. With an online one like this, you basically set up a direct debit every month. It goes out of your account every month. You're entering the lotto automatically every month, and you're notified if you won or you didn't win. Okay, there's no one chasing for money. There's no bad debts with it, because once you sign up, you're signed up. But then going back to your worldwide market again, anyone, anywhere can be part of that lotto. Okay, so just think about that in terms of you're limiting yourself. If you're doing a physical lotto, selling tickets on a Friday night, Saturday night, something like, you're limited to your local area. You're probably clashing with other fundraising events. You're probably annoying the public because they're being sick of being asked for money. Whereas you go online with it's a direct debit. So we've won with Club Force in the club, and I've got a direct debit every month going out of my account that gives me, which is my lotto every month. Okay, I won 30 euros on it a year ago, so I'm not making any money out of it, but it's there, and it's like anything else. So, but it's coming out of the account. I don't even know it's going out of the account. The same with clubs doing membership. Again, our club, we had an issue with the academy, and we charge an annual registration for the academy players, for the kids coming in, and they get their gear and their jerseys and all that kind of stuff for as part of the fee. A lot of parents would say, you've got to pay now on Saturday morning when you come down the first day, bring the money with you and sign the child up. And they come down and say, I forgot to bring my money, and you're not going to turn the child away. Like, you're not going to say, your parent didn't pay, so you got to go out. So the kid pays, and then the parent knows the kid's involved, and it makes it more difficult for the club to get, to say to the kid, you can't play anymore. And there was a lot of bad debt. There was a lot of, people not paying their membership or paying their registration. When it went online, they couldn't register the child until they paid. So this year there's 100% receipts from the academy registrations, whereas there never was before. So again, you're just basically off. I think ours up to like 25% because of that, which is substantial. Not the numbers are up 25%, but there's 25% of people who weren't paying before now have to pay to get their child registered. So promoting your campaign. So the key thing really, it's like everything else. If you're working in sales or marketing, or if you're in a business and you're selling products and services, you'd understand that there's no point to having a very good product or service if no one knows about it. Or you've got to go out there and tell people it's there. You've got to sell it to them. You've got to push it to them. You've got to, influence them to do it. You've got to get people out there to kind of refer us, to suggest it, to make recommendation for it. You've got to do all these things. So that's what I'm saying. If you're building your fundraising team, make sure there's people there that have knowledge of marketing or sales or business, that they understand how you go out there and get these things over the line. Because the key thing is that you're competing with an awful lot of other events and an awful lot of other things that people will spend their money on, and you've got to convince them that this is something you should get involved in. And very often when you find in communities, this is my own experience, but I'm living here in Causeway in North Kerry. I'm not from Causeway. I'm from Tralee. My wife's not from Kerry. She's from Westmeath. So we're not local to the community. And to be honest, we never really got involved in the community. when we were here for the first 6-7 years. We were getting involved, but not really involved. The people came looking for money for this, that, and the other. We were kind of giving to them, but we were kind of thinking, why should we bother? Because we're not getting anything out of it. The minute we had kids, and they were going to national school, getting involved in the local football club, hurling club, basketball club, every other sort of club you can imagine. We were involved in the community. We were volunteering, we were getting involved, we were doing this, that, and the other. You have to target people that are going to get a benefit from the work you do, right? So that's the starting point, right? And then you start working out from that afterwards. So then you start targeting their families, right? So my mother would give a lot of money to the national school because her grandkids are going to national school. She's not even near the national school. None of us went to that national school, but because because my kids are going there, she wants to get involved in it. So you start building up that network and a wider network. You have to do that through some sort of marketing to inform people, right? So get on your social media, as I said, moderate it and manage it properly. It's the hub and spoke model as well there. You're trying to grab as many people out there to bring in other people around them. Do email campaigns. If you have an email database, you should be building an email database, and obviously make sure you're compliant with all GDPR legislation. Again, target those people with an email campaign, a brochure, a PDF, a poster, whatever you want to put out there. Again, nothing too fancy, keep it simple. To use WhatsApp and text alerts. So all clubs, sports clubs use WhatsApp now and text alerts. All schools use it as well to get the message out there to the parents or to the coaches or to whoever it might be, right? Use those as a way of getting the link to the fundraiser on those messages, okay? Because what happened is that, so for us, we got a link to our WhatsApp from the club because we're coaching, and I send it to people I knew within the club, parents I know, and asked them to get involved and to donate some money towards the project. And then I got in contact with people I knew myself personally who I asked them because they were friends. And then I got in contact with a few people I knew who had played with the club years ago. And I said, okay, no, you use your contacts to go out and get those people to bring money in as well. It was all done through WhatsApp. Local notes and newsletters. So like if you got a local notes newsletter, parish newsletter, a local paper, local advertiser, do an editorial in there. Explain what you're trying to do, what the fundraiser is about, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to raise. Launch it, do a big fancy launch, get publicity, get some photographs, put up on your social media, get it in the local press, get on the local radio, do what you possibly can do. Go on the radio and do interviews. So as I said, tonight on Radio Kerry, 3 members of our local GA club are on talking about the fundraiser and explaining why it's important to get involved and support it. Okay, so basically shout it from the rooftops that you're doing this thing and why you're doing it. Okay, not just you're doing a campaign or you're doing a fundraiser, explain what it's for. Use post campaigns. So again, use visuals so people can see it. If it's a project like a building project, pitch, dressing rooms, floodlights, garden furniture, roundabouts, whatever it is you're doing, get a visual of what it would look like when it's completed and put it up there. On local posters, do a billboard campaign. It doesn't have to be billboard that you're paying for. It can be billboard on the side of your building. It can be billboard on your site that you own. Once you got permission to put it up there, obviously. But let's say it's the side of your building, let's say a community center, you can put a big billboard there and have a big sign saying this is what we're trying to achieve. Use influencers, so get local people, sports people, artists, actors, business people, models, whoever you want that's popular, famous, well connected, it's got people following them online. Use them to push the campaign. Use them as ambassadors as well, so they're ambassadors of the project. A lot of projects will use kind of maybe sports people to be the ambassador to support the project. I don't think, and it's up to yourselves, but I wouldn't be recommending it to use politicians, and I'm nothing against politicians at all. Problem with politicians is that they will be divided. Some people will support that party, they won't support that party, and you're splitting the community down the middle there. Go for neutral people that, not everyone's going to like the sports person, but there's going to be no huge divide there in the community about the person or not. So you can try and keep it as neutral as possible. Use a hook, make it fun, make it entertaining, have it edgy but not controversial. Don't go down the controversial route, whatever you do. Okay, you might think it'll work, it'll get you publicity, but the wrong type of publicity. The key thing really with community fundraisers, get the family involved. Okay, make it entertaining, get us where everyone can get involved in it. That's why these fun days, fun weekends, kind of community weekends, festival weekends work really, really well. We did a bit of work above in Cullohill in County Laois there a number of years ago, and they have a folly. It's called every year, or not every year. They only had it 2 years, I think it was, when COVID stopped it, and they raised substantial money. But it was over 3 days in a small village, over 3 days. But the music, they'd stuff for the kids. The national porridge making competition, which was the hook, and the winner of that went to represent Ireland in the international porridge making competition, which does exist. This all these things. Durrow in County Laois as well. They have the annual Scarecrow Festival, which raises massive money for the local community. And again, it's a different type of a festival, strange kind of thing, but it works really, really well because it's going to get attention. Use visuals. So again, a lot of people talk about what they're trying to do, and they say this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to achieve, and maybe someone, the spokesperson, talks about it. Waste time, complete waste time. No one's going to know what it is unless they see it. So use visuals. Now, this can cost a bit of money, but it shouldn't cost you an awful lot of money. And I'm going to show you some of them that we've used and we've been involved with as well. So basically, the key thing about visuals is that people can see what the finished product is going to look like or what's going to be achieved. Okay, and that's really important because I remember talking to a guy years ago in a village in West Limerick, and I asked them what their secret was with raise money, because they were very, very successful at raising money for many, many different projects, and for projects outside our community as well, for other projects. And he said the key thing is to make sure that people see there's something happening. Right. So if you're building something on a greenfield site, and all this is a field, and you're asking people to put money into it because you want building something like a community center or a daycare or something like that, right? He said, knock a hole in the ditch, drive in a digger, park it, put in a port cabin, and make it look like there's something happening within the field, right? Now we start to the project as far as they're concerned. If they're driving past that field every day and all they see is cows grazing in it by a local farmer, they're saying, when we raised money last year for that field, there's nothing's been done with it. You lose the trust of the community. So you have to show that you're starting something. And if you can't show that physically in terms of the work on the ground, you show them visuals what it's going to look like when it's done. So some of the stuff we've done is this, for example, is this school here in the top left-hand corner, this building. That was my old secondary school, the Green CBS Tralee, good old famous school in Kerry. And when I was going to school, where this new school is now, that was a big field. But it was an acre. It was called the Acre, and that's where we used to play football on a really bad grass pitch. And many good footballers over the years from Kerry played on that pitch as well. So they built the school, and then the plan was on the site here was basically gravel kind of yard. It was just kind of waste ground really, and that's where they were going to build their pitch. And they were trying to fundraise for the pitch, and they were saying people were going to build an AstroTurf pitch. No one knew where they were going to build it. They all thought it was going to be away from, because everyone thought this was a car park. When you drove past, it looked like a car park because it was kind of a temporary car park. And people thought, where are they building the pitch? Like, is the pitch going to be away from the school? And rumors spread in that they were building a pitch away from the school, and kids would have to travel, and parents had to bring the kids back and forth from the pitch from the school to the pitch. So we said to them, look, I was in school there, so the vice principal was a classmate of mine. So I said, look, I was doing some work with them anyway, kind of on a voluntary basis, helping them out with a few things. And I said, look, we'll get a 3D image of what the pitch will look like when it's completed. And this is it right in front of you. And we put that on an 8-foot by 8-foot billboard on the entrance of the school. Now, the entrance of the school, which is a road to the opposite side of the school here, is one of the busier roads in Tralee. It's a very busy road. So it got a lot of visibility. But what happened was people were driving past it, they could see what was going to be there. And a lot of people were ex-students of the school, or had their kids were students in the school, or their grandkids were students in the school. And they said, that'd be class. If we, that'd be great to have that as a facility for the school and for the wider community. And the next thing, their fundraising just grew legs then because of it, because people could see what the outcome would be. And if you drove past there today, across the road from the Rose Hotel in Tralee, if you're familiar with it, you'll see this pitch as it is in front of you there. It's the exact same as what's there. So it wasn't like we're fooling people with something, but what they saw is what they got when they fundraised for it. This is one we did for the county board number of years ago when they were doing the fundraising campaign, international campaigns to the UK and to the States. A lot of the companies that were going after to kind of push the corporate side of it wanted to see a development plan to see what the long-term viability of the project was for the Centre of Excellence. So we had to put together a business plan for it. And you can see the image here, we worked with graphic designers. So they were showing the kind of the history of GEA going back over the decades, back to Mick O'Connell's time. And again, we're tapping into that legacy. So the whole campaign that we built up around imagery, around the video, around the promotional video, was all around the legacy and being part of the new legacy of Kerry football. And it raised 1.2 million over in America, which is phenomenal. But again, you had to show them what they were getting for that. This is what we did for the Ring Kerry Charity Cycle for sponsors. Now, funny enough, we got loads of these made. We also put a DVD in there, and it was kind of a booklet. And the DVD was kind of a promotional video for the Ring Kerry Cycle. Most of those weren't even used because the 4 main partners that we got on board actually came to us looking to get on board. We didn't sell to them, we didn't push to them. They want to get on board. And the reason why they want to get on board was that it was it still is the largest fundraising cycle in the country. And it was people from all over Ireland coming down to it. But the key thing for them was that it wasn't just over one day. People were preparing for it over a number of months. So they were talking about it. They were on social media. They were back and forth talking about it. So Lidl were the first main sponsor we had, and they came on board. Great sponsors to have on board. Then we had Skoda. Then we had the Examiner, Kerryman newspaper, Nature Valley came on board as well. So with Nature Valley, the reason why Nature Valley got on board was that General Mills, who own Nature Valley, one of the brand manager or brand managers for Nature Valley or for General Mills was a lady from Killarney. So the event happens in Killarney. So again, it was a local connection there. She wanted to get involved. So it's sometimes you can be lucky, right place, right time, but in our case, then you have to go out there and show them. So they didn't just come on board and say, yeah, we're going to come on board, but no strings attached. They wanted to make sure it was run professionally. It was all about the money going to charities and not to like consultants and to a whole range of administrators and things like that. So we were able to show them that in the pitches we presented to them. This one we did for Kerry Pride Festival, again, to raise money for their Pride Festival they ran in 2013. Again, sponsorship opportunities there that went out to companies locally to get on board. And this one we did for a video. Then we did for I won't play because it actually crashed probably the broadband. But again, it's just a short video of an overview of what the facilities will look like when it's completed. And again, that video went out through WhatsApp to a number of contacts throughout the club. And then that video then was passed on into all their connections as well. So it didn't go viral, but it went out to an awful lot of people, and people saw what we were going to achieve with the money. It started helping the fundraising, considerably. Okay, so the thing really with campaign, and it's for a lot of organizations, they fall down. The key thing there really is that sometimes the organization, they overcomplicate things, right? So keep it very simple, right? So if you're looking for money for something, keep it simple. Be very straight and honest in what you're looking for money for. Give options, give people different ways to donate. Don't make it complex for them to donate. So there's no point in saying, get involved. They're like, how do I get involved? I don't know where to give the money. Who do I give the money to? Is it, are you collecting money, or is it online, or do I, have you got bank details? What is it? Make it very simple for them to donate in different ways. And then what the impact would be, okay? So this is a very, very basic example, right? And this I'm saying, it doesn't have to be something crazy. This is an example of a community building a playground. Now it's not a real example. It's just a sample I made up, but it was to prove a point to an organization we're working with a few years back. They were trying to raise money for a playground. No one knew where the playground was going. No one knew what the playground would look like. Was it going to be one of these outdoor gyms? Was it going to be child friendly? Was it going to be fun? Was it going to be whatever? No one knew. Kids didn't know. Parents didn't know. And the bottom line was no one was getting involved in it because no one had a clue what was happening. So we went back to them and said, okay, you need to put up an image of the playground. Even if it's only an image you get from the supplier of the playground equipment, put up on a billboard. You need to put that billboard up on the site where it's going to go so people know where it's going to be. And you need to give people an opportunity to donate. So show them how they can donate, either on a Facebook page or text donate. And then on the other side, show them what the target is. So you have to see these thermometers where people are fundraising, the target and how much they've raised to date in terms of their target. Okay. So straight away people can see, I know what we're getting, I know where it is, I know how I can donate, I know how far they've gone in their target and getting towards the target. As opposed to saying to people, help us build a playground in the community. You have to give people a reason to get involved, a reason to donate. But the thing about this is that kids see this, they'll want it as well, and they'll be saying, "Oh, it'd be great to have that in our community, great to have it in our village. We've nothing like that," and then people will get behind it and back it. Whereas if they don't see it, they won't back it. Again, targeted diaspora, as I said earlier on, it's a bit, especially about the online campaign, is that you can go after people abroad, right? So again, a lot of clubs do this, so they'll target some of the players that might have gone to Australia, America, wherever, and they're still involved in maybe playing a bit of football or something over there. And they say, "Look, we're doing a fundraiser for the club. Can you gather, maybe 10 or 15 of your buddies over in Australia and help us out?" And they will, because they want to give something back to the club. I said that was what the county board did. They targeted that diaspora community. Again, encourage them to promote the campaign amongst their network. Do like and share campaigns. So one of the things we did for the Ring Kerry Cycle a number of years ago was we asked cyclists that were coming from different parts of the world to cycle in the event in July, to do a photo of an iconic location that represents the country or the area or the city they're training. So, for example, people come back with maybe a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge in the background, or the Eiffel Tower in the background, and the Ring Kerry cycle jersey on them. They have a bike, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're training in Paris. There's the Eiffel Tower," and they have this campaign, and people are liking and sharing and passing along. Now, did that mean that we made more money? No, but it meant that we drove our social media. It went crazy, went off the charts in terms of numbers. And that's when you go back into your sponsors the following year, saying, "Look at the traction we're getting on social media here. Look at the coverage we're getting. Look at the amount of people that are liking our page. The amount of people that are checking into our page on a daily basis." That's where you show them the stats, because that's what they want to see. Companies won't get involved if they don't get any marketing out of it, no exposure out of it. The more exposure you can show they're going to get, the more they give, the more likely they'll be involved in it. And that's why you do these things. Sometimes not to get the money, is to get the sponsors to back it. So then move on to sponsorship. And with sponsorship, again, there's a couple of ways of getting sponsors involved, right? So if you look at, say, if you're doing like a football pitch or a community center or something like that, where you can actually have space for advertising, you can start selling these advertising boardings. So what we're doing with the club is, at the moment, we're selling an advertising, your name on the side of the pitch for, we haven't agreed on the price, but probably looking at maybe €300 a year for 3 years. So they can pay €900 up front, or they can pay €200 per year. And then we'll ask them to, if they want to stick after 3 years, they can, or if they don't want to, we just take their sign down and put up a new sign. Now there's probably space for about 100 and something signs. So that's a lot of ads. That's a lot of companies, but there's a lot of, where it's a tree-based club, so there's a lot of people involved in it. Like, they've already got probably about 40 signed up through their golf classic that they can actually target again for advertising on the side of the pitch. This is the Ring of Kerry. So again, this year they're event partners with Fexco, Kerry Group, and Great Southern Killarney. So what they get in return for that is they get exposure, they get the logos on the jersey, they'll get different things for that, right? But the key thing is, these are 3 Kerry-based companies. So one of the main reasons they're getting involved is they're getting involved in a local charity. The reason I put up this one here is, now this is obviously a huge sponsorship deal, and it's nothing comparable to what you'd be doing or anything I'd be involved in. The reason why I'm putting it up there was that Lidl were back in the Ring Kerry cycle for a number of years, for 3 years, and they moved away from us because they were moving on to the LGFA as being their main, the Ladies Gaelic Football Association, their main partner. And what Lidl have done for ladies football over the last number of years has been phenomenal in terms of marketing and driving it in terms of numbers and attendance. A lot of the matches has gone through the roof. That's down to the quality of the games as well, but it's also down to the marketing kind of muscle that Lidl would have. But what Lidl said to us back in 2013 was that they want to get involved in events and charities that are the grassroots of community. That's because that's where their business is, that's where their customers are. They don't want to get involved in kind of stuff that's very kind of maybe kind of elitist or something like that, right? They want to get something involved in grassroots. Now, the reason why they picked today's, I don't know why they picked the Ladies Gaelic Football Association, but my thing is that Ladies Gaelic football is growing. Seriously, there's huge numbers getting involved. It was underdeveloped, it was underrepresented, and it was an opportunity for them to drive it and make it their own. The reason why I put that up there was because when you're approaching companies locally, right, you want to get them involved in something that's going to be important to the community, and there'll be goodwill back to them again afterwards. So if you're going to a local sponsor or local company looking for sponsorship, they need to realize, and if they're good at business and they're good at marketing, they got their heads screwed on right, they'll know this anyway, that we like giving things back to people that are giving something to us. So we like to support businesses that are supporting our schools, supporting our clubs, supporting our communities, supporting our projects. Okay, and that's fact, because we all do it. So I give you a very 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 simple example of that. There was my mother was involved in the Alzheimer's Centre here in Tralee for a number of years as an assistant, and every year they used to do the fundraiser for the Alzheimer Tea Day. And there was a shop locally near where the centre is, and they used to go there every day getting, milk and sugar and provisions and stuff like that. And when they went to this shop to ask would they support the fundraiser, the person literally just thrown 10 euros at my mom, like literally fired, said, there you go, that's all we're giving you. And she was upset because she was embarrassed and whatever, and she went back and she was telling her colleagues this, and they basically boycotted the shop thereafter. They went to another shop which was a good away from the place, and the guy gave them hampers, product, brought it down, helped them serve the tea, helped them put stuff out, and gave them a check at the end of it because he thought the work they're doing was fantastic. Right? He picked up, I would say, I don't know how much business picked up, but a lot of business out of that, right? Because people want to give something back to them. And that's the difference. You see, smart business people will see an opportunity to give something, and they know to get something back in return, right? Some will do it because they want to get involved in their community. They feel they have a social responsibility or corporate social responsibility to give something back or get involved. They might have staff that are working in a company that are from the local area, or their kids are going to the local school, or the kids are involved in the local club, and they want to get involved in it. Okay, or they might be living in the community, but they want to get something back. So it's not about marketing value and PR. Sometimes it's about getting something back, but it's also about goodwill. Okay, so a lot of companies will see that as an opportunity to get involved because it's goodwill. So one of the companies that got involved in sponsoring our jerseys for our academy players was a local play centre in Tralee, because the age group of the kids wearing the jerseys between 6 and 10 years of age, or 10 years of age, which is the market that this person was going after for kids' parties and for communions and all that kind of stuff. So all these, his customers basically running around with, the name of his play centre on their jersey. But the thing was that, everyone said, look, we'd like to thank the centre for supporting us. Parents didn't that, look, well, fair play to them, they're sponsoring our academy, they're giving us, the jerseys. We don't have to pay for jerseys. We'll now give him a turn, and we'll actually bring our party to his centre. So you have to sometimes explain that to the business people. You shouldn't have to, but sometimes you have to explain to them. Okay, so there has to be value in it for them. Either they're giving something back or they're getting marketing value out of it. But we don't do it. We don't tap into that enough in Ireland. We just basically rely on, Joe and Mary blogs living in the village, will give us money outside the church, or will help, give us a few euros when we're backpacking. Yet there's multi-million euro businesses on the doorstep that are not being asked for money at all, which makes no sense. Who can well afford it? It's not going to be a dent on anything. They can claim it back as a tax, as a tax allowable or allowable expense, but they're not asked to. So again, it's important to identify who they are. So it's the most underutilized form of raising funds, without doubt. In any other country, sponsors, are the backbone of the sector, where you got big companies sponsoring a very large amounts of money to campaigns and to projects. And if you look at, say, some of the big charities in abroad in the States and the UK, like their boards are made up of, like, directors of companies and, very hard-hitting, players within the financial sector or whatever. Identify companies that are targeting your customers. So if you're providing services for older people, younger people, look at companies that are in that market as well. Now just be careful that you don't kind of sell your soul and basically, bring on board a sponsor that's, questionable. So, like, we're not going to have McDonald's sponsoring our jerseys anytime soon. We're certainly not going to have, like, the local pub sponsoring jerseys anytime soon. Or we're not going to have things like Coca-Cola or something like that sponsored, because, like, we're trying to encourage kids to get active and get fit and, be outdoors and away from screens and, tackling obesity and all that kind of stuff. So if you're kind of bit kind of hypocritical if you're having your under 6s to under 10s running around with McDonald's on their jersey, like, but some organizations don't mind about that, and they just take whatever money's going. But be very, very careful with it. The other thing with that as well is that sometimes companies can be kind of controversial. They might be doing stuff environmentally that might be right, and might have a lot of people against them at a local level. And then the next thing, the community group is after getting a big payoff off them, and they they're all of a sudden, feel that they're going to wash their hands of their problems within the community. That can cause absolute carnage in communities. So again, I wouldn't be going down that road. So just be careful who we are getting involved with as a corporate partner, and have some ethical boundaries as well. What activities will get most coverage? So again, if it's going to be a small local event, it's not going to get any coverage nationally. It's not going to get any coverage probably in a wider county or even beyond your local village or town. That's not going to be very attractive to businesses outside of that area, because why would they get involved? They're not getting anything out of it. What are the benefits to the company? Marketing, exposure, PR. They'll be getting, they can claim the sponsorship as a lawful expense, so they're getting tax relief on it. Identify key people within the companies to champion your project. So ask people, do you know anyone working in that company? Does anyone know anyone related to someone in that company? Go on LinkedIn, look at the company, look at who the directors are, look where the kind of decision makers are. Then look them up on LinkedIn and see who's connected to them that you know. You might be connected to them yourself, and there might be, you might realize it, but there might be your third cousin could be in charge of something within the company. You don't know. Look at long-term partners in. So this is the key thing in terms of sponsorship. You don't want to be going back to sponsors every single year, kind of begging for money off them, right? You want to be kind of hassling them, hounding them every year. Look for long-term. So when you're getting partners involved, and I just call them partners because sponsors can sponsor a one-off event. A partner is more long-term. Look at multi-year deals. So trying to get set up to like a 3-year deal with you. So they're going to give you money every year for 3 years. That does two things. One, it guarantees you, well, not guarantees, but pretty much guarantees that you'll have money from them for the next 3 years. Okay, so that's kind of tied in now, locked in, but also allows them to say to other people that are looking for money off them, look, we've already got a partner or charity partner or community partner, and with them come back to us in 2 years' time when their deal is up and when our partnership is up for negotiation, then we'll entertain you. So it gives them an opportunity to kind of shut the door politely to other potential charities or organizations. Again, that can cause problems at a local level where you might be alienating other charities then that can't get in the door there because you've kind of locked them in. Look, this might sound terrible, but it's kind of like you it's either do something like that or you're all going back kind of basically kind of competing for the same money every year. Your job is to get your organization looked after, number one, without stepping on anyone's toes. But you want to be kind of looking at these multi-year deals rather than going back every single year and looking for partners, because you can't, if you don't know what you're going to get every year because you've nothing locked in, then you're going to start from scratch every year, which is can be very frustrating and a lot of hard work. So target companies then. So again, you can say to them, look, that they can get they can use they can use basically you as a marketing tool, so they can get some publicity out of it. You can provide them with branding opportunities. For example, on the website, you can have their logos. On social media, you can have their logos. They can do competitions with you. So for prizes and stuff like that, gets their name out there as well. Do thank you campaigns, so they get invited to photo shoots, hand over check, kind of launch campaigns, things like that. And again, sometimes then you can you could have maybe if it's a building, so parts of the building can actually be named after them, so you can naming rights. Like some of the GA facilities across the country now, their stands or their stadium are named after the sponsor. I'm not saying you name your building after the sponsor, but certainly you can name like rooms within there. So I know, for example, it's like theaters and stuff would do that. So it might be a donor might have donated some money to the theater, and maybe the green room is named after them, or maybe the foyer is, or there might be gallery space named after them or something like that. So you can do that at local level as well. Some organizations have sponsor walls, so they have the sponsors' names and the families that donated on a wall. I think Tyrone, for their Centre of Excellence, did a pixel campaign. So every person was and the name was like a pixel on a big digital display. So everyone kind of got their name recognized in it. Some Titans group, if money is donated from a person in their will, or if there was a family might be donating money towards a project, they might name it seat or whatever after on a walk or something like that, or a picnic table or something like that, or a flowerbed even would be named after the person who donated money. So there's lots of ways of doing it where you can give something back to the person who's donating or sponsoring. Okay, so that's pretty much it in terms of fundraising. There's a lot there. There's a lot to look at in terms, because it's so vast in terms of what you can do. I suppose my advice would be for you is that you look at other organizations that have done very successful fundraising campaigns. Go meet them. Okay, it might be local to you. Go and talk to them. If they're up the country, if they're in Limerick, if they're in Galway, if they're in Tipperary or Sligo, wherever it might be, go talk to them and say, look, how did you do this? What did you do? Because they're not competing with you. They're not local to you. So not competing. And they will, most people will be fairly open in terms of how they did their fundraisers, what they do, what they don't do. But it's about being organized, about being well organized, having a solid team that's going to stick with it. And not just 2 or 3 people, but a decent sized team, and a very, very careful, well thought out strategy. And if you can do that, you'll maximize the money you raise. The reason why a lot of organizations don't maximize the money they raise through fundraising is they do very kind of haphazardly. It's kind of like, let's go and do a fundraiser and see how it goes. They don't plan it properly, and they don't raise enough money because of it. Just go into the chat there, because I think there's a few questions on that. Okay, over. What kind of money are we looking at from events? So companies that run the events, it's typically, I think it's a flat fee is what they charge. Now I can check that out. I think it's a flat fee. So if you're getting a company like Palace Marketing, they charge a flat fee rather than a percentage. Because if I don't do this sort of work, I don't actually run events, but if I was running events, I wouldn't be doing it as a percentage. I'd be doing it as a flat fee, because it's too risky otherwise. So the financial, so there was a point I made about the financial competency of the organization on the chat. That's really important, a really important point. And that goes back to your trust and transparency and accountability. No one is going to give money to an organization that either isn't transparent or is just perceived not to be transparent or accountable. So when you've got a situation where you can't find anything about the company, who's involved, what their organization is about, who's involved, who's working there, who's not working there, is it voluntary run, is it not voluntary run? And that goes back to the website, because your website will have all that information there. Someone can just basically go into the site, see exactly how the organization is run, see who the team are, who the board are, who's involved, who's not involved, and it just makes it so much easier. When there's very little information out there about an organization, no one is going to get involved in it. I certainly wouldn't be getting involved in it if I was asked to sponsor an organization and I was like, well, okay, I can't find anything about these people at all. I have no idea where this money is going to. I'm not confident that this, it might be all above board, but it doesn't seem to me, because I don't know. And if I don't know, I'm not going to get involved. So it's important that, again, that you've got, there is a competent organization, but it's not just being competent, it's also making sure people know you're competent as well. So GDPR came up as well. So if you're doing email campaigns, maybe like say MailChimp or something like that, if you've a database of emails, they have got given you permission to actually text them or to email them. So for example, if you're in a club and you've got a WhatsApp group of parents of the kids that are involved in their club, they've all agreed to receive messages from you via WhatsApp or via email, because that's the way you're going to communicate with them. Okay, so they can't say, well, you contacted me there, you shouldn't have contacted me. If you're putting up on the permissions at the very, very start when you register, make sure that there's a box there that's not just communication in relation to training and matches and all that, but there's also communication in relation to promotion activity. So once they tick that box, then they're giving you permission to do it. They might want to be removed from it for the promotional element of it afterwards, but once you get permission to start, that's fine. You have to give them the option to drop all of that as well also. But it is just make sure you are compliant with GDPR. A lot of groups don't do that. They just basically pull email addresses down from everywhere and start basically just putting emails out there and cold calling. You can't do that. Okay, just be very careful with it. Weather is a huge risk for outdoor events, especially in Ireland, because we don't know what's going to be like. Especially things like golf classics can be a nightmare. You could have golf classic organized for May, and you could just get a weekend with really bad weather and things cancelled. If it's cancelled, that's an absolute mess. So it is something that we can't control. Again, you try to maybe something that's, if you're doing outdoor events, it's outdoor, so it doesn't make you can't do anything about that, but it can be a determining factor, definitely. So Gavin, so you can get, that's right, Gavin, you can get insurance to cover you first. So if you do lose money on an event, there would be insurance there. Okay, do you think any other question? Just don't stop the recording there now, and I will just